inaugural Gymnastics East Conference Championships from here at the Pizzatola Sports Center at Brown University. Hello everyone, it's great to have you with us from inside. It's a good thing we're not outdoors, which is kind of the typical mode of athletics this time of year. The Gymnastics East Conference, its inaugural year, will see 2 sessions here this afternoon. I'm Mike Rubin. I'll be bringing you all the coverage on behalf of our outstanding ESPN team. The afternoon session today will feature Southern Connecticut, Cornell, William and Mary in Bridgeport. Later tonight, Penn, Yale, along with the host Brown Bears. And, really this afternoon is going to be about seedings and trying to put together your best score of the day. Each of these programs will try and compete, trying to hit that peak, optimizing their performance, some complex routines, and trying to tighten things up. You'll see the rotation here this afternoon. William and Mary's going to start on the vault, followed by Bridgeport on the bars, Cornell on the beam, and Southern Connecticut on the floor. Each of these programs will have a full complement of gymnasts working their way through all of the events throughout the afternoon. There'll then be a break, and the other 4 schools tonight will compete. Some gymnasts to watch. First, starting with the tribe of William and Mary. William and Mary seeded 7th overall. Keegan Schaefer and Sophie Chandler both on the floor. Also, Schaefer also competes on the bars. They also have to keep an eye on Chloe Campbell on the floor. She was 2nd team all GEC. Sophie Chandler's best result on the floor, a 9.825. Those of us here at Brown have become very familiar with Bridgeport. They've been here a few times this season. Catherine Duran, one of the top bars athletes in the GEC, and Nicole Javanette a couple of weeks ago, posting a 9.825 on the beam. Cornell looking to ride the lightning. They had an awesome meet a week ago, scoring their top result of the season, pushed them to number 5 overall by more than 1.5 points. Sydney Beers and Callista Brady, 2 of their top gymnasts. Beers will compete in all 4 events, vying for an all-around championship. And Southern Connecticut, again, also not an unfamiliar face to those of us here, not too far away, so the Bears and the Owls see each other quite a bit. Bianca Leon has been a mainstay on the bars and the vault this season. She's 1st team all GEC on the bars. Hannah Zebdi, 2nd team all conference on both the floor and the vault for a Southern team that comes in seeded 6th overall. So there's session 1 this afternoon. Some of the gymnasts to watch. Before we get started, here's a look at some of what these coaches had to say about their very talented clubs.
I cannot say enough about this senior class. We would not be the team that we are without our seniors, because they truly, all 5 of them, had pretty much, for lack of better words, chalked up their career. When the shutdown happened, everybody had uncertainties, but when they wanted to return, they weren't certain they'd have an institution to return to. And then they knew they didn't have a staff. So it was kind of like, what was the point in being in the gym if you don't even know what the end goal is here? But they pushed through, and, we had assistant coach Becky Ferraro was the interim head coach, and she brought them back into the gym and said, listen, I just want you to enjoy being on the equipment. And that was when they all started to kind of get that fire lit. And they decided, we're coming back. We're going to finish the way we want to finish, and we're going to give it everything we have so that we know we won't have any regrets. So without this senior class, we would not have been able to uphold the traditions that we're so formed on.
I think, everybody's senior class had a total of, 1 year and 2 months of competition. I think they've all struggled in their own way to figure out what their college experience needs to look like this last year. But I think for us, they've really helped the freshmen and sophomores and even the juniors to figure out what it should look like when they leave, and leaving a legacy of what it's different than it used to be, but what is new and fresh and exciting from this year moving forward. And I think, they brought all the kind of the old school traditions and experiences, and then put their own twist on them to make the team something new.
Yeah, so we have two seniors. We have Chloe Campbell and Kaylee Galata. And one thing about those two is that they've been fighting through injuries from their freshman year. And so both of them have competed only 2 years. Last year we had 3 meets. This year we have a full season, which we're very grateful for. But these two have really, really fought through just to be able to have the position to compete.
Oh my goodness, their impact is immeasurable. Being able to keep the team motivated and united throughout the pandemic when we didn't even have a season, and really focus on working on the culture of the team so that when we were given the green light to compete again, we were ready to go, and a strong, tight-knit group. They did so much work behind the scenes on Zoom, mailing each other letters, whatever it took, to keep people excited about the opportunity that we knew we'd eventually have again. And the culture of this team this year has been incredible. They fully appreciate every opportunity that we have. They're grateful every day that they get to represent Brown in Division I gymnastics, and it's going to be very, very difficult to say goodbye to these seniors.
They've been incredible to watch, and obviously an inspiration for myself and for the team. You know, just if you look back and said this is what your 4 years was going to be like, nobody would have obviously believed us. It's just crazy. And the really special thing about this group is going into right before we were shut down, they were contributing 2 routines to our lineup in 2020 because of injuries. And then this season, they've been 9 routines in our lineup as seniors, which is incredible. They've all stepped up. Our captain, Sana, had never competed for Yale before until this year, and to do it as a senior has been so fun to watch. And then Lindsay, who's never done the all-around, finished the GEC as the #1 ranked all-arounder in the conference. And then Kendall, our other senior that's competing, she was only doing 1 event my first year when I started, and she's been a rock star for us on 3 events this year. And then Izzy is our other senior who's graduating, and she is not doing gymnastics anymore, but she's been a big behind-the-scenes person, helping the team with everything and anything she can do to be a part of the special thing we have going. And so, yeah, just overall, I mean, just watching what they do and what they sacrifice and what they put on the table this year for the team to really lead this group has been awesome to watch.
I just love this team. I mean, I think because we did not have a season last year because of COVID, we all are so appreciative of what we're getting this year and what we get to do. We have a little bit of a mixed bag. We have a very, very strong senior class. I have 5 seniors and 1 fifth year. So, and the 5th year obviously lost her senior year last year. So they're a very, very strong class that has helped us so much with the 14 freshmen and sophomores that we have that have never competed on a college floor before, or arena before. So definitely those seniors have helped us really be able to compete this year. I think that we have a very talented freshman and sophomore class. Definitely nerves have definitely played an effect on them a little bit this year because, they've never done this before. I think they've handled it well. Last weekend was our senior meet at home, and I had every single senior on the floor lineup, which was super exciting. I think this weekend I'm going to have 5 seniors, don't hold me to it yet, compete because I'm not totally set yet, which I think that is super special on our floor lineup to have 5 seniors to compete. And they competed last weekend and broke our floor record. It was amazing. So really, really special. Flip side, on our beam lineup, we have 1 senior competing probably. And so lots of very talented beam routines, but definitely, just the pressure has gotten to them from time to time during the season. So, yeah, we have a little bit of a mixed bag, but just a great team together. They've come together really nicely. Every year every individual comes up with a word for the year. And then this year we also came up with a team word, and our team word is unit. And they have really come together as a really spectacular unit.
Well, here's a look inside as they are warming up here for the first rotation of our first session here at the GEC Championships, the inaugural conference championships for the Gymnastics East Conference, being hosted here at the Pizzatola Sports Center. Of course, teams will also compete, some of them next week, at the USAG National Championships being hosted at Cornell. And there's a look at one of the Cornell gymnasts who is getting started on the beam here in this first session. The rest of the rotation, as we mentioned, will have Bridgeport on the bars right in front of me here. And I believe that puts Southern Connecticut on the floor. And that's William and Mary warming up over on the vault. They'll be starting in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to run through who our officials are today. On the floor exercise, which again has Southern Connecticut up first, will be Lorraine Duffy and Sean Ellis Williams. You saw the bars a couple of minutes ago. That's Darren Renna and Alan Whiteberg are the officials. Balance beam officials will be Eileen Sheldon and Patty Colarossi. And on the vault, Kerry Rivera and Sally Buchanan. Today's referee is Denise Coates Laureate out of Brevet, Texas. And there's the head coach of the Tribe of William and Mary, Kelsey Hinton. Tribe coming in seeded 7th overall, 7th in most of the events as well, but can have some pretty strong performances over the course of the season, particularly on the vault. Emma Wiley has hit a 9.8. Some final words of advice from Byron Knox to his Southern Connecticut Owls, longtime coach in Bridgeport. Southern Connecticut on the floor. There's the Tribe again on the floor. Some pretty strong scores for Southern Connecticut. Top gymnasts to watch, Cassidy Girolamo and Hannah Stahlbro. You're looking at William and Mary on the vault there. Well, we welcome you back here to the Pizzatola Sports Center. Apologies if you lost us there for a moment. Great job by our crew to get me back up and running. My name is Mike Rubin for our entire ESPN team. A tough fall over on the bars for Alexis Richardson, the second competitor for Bridgeport on the bars. In your top left, competing on the floor is Brooke Burkhardt of Southern Connecticut following a strong performance from Ava Boyd. Third competitor for Cornell about to take the beam. That is Melanie Stone. Michelini, the previous competitor. Stone's top score, a 9.775 on the beam this season. You're going to get a second pass here on the floor. And a clean finish in the end there for Burkhardt, who seems pleased. And there's another look in at Cornell's Melanie Stone. Been a mainstay on the beam this season. Last time out, a 9-0 against Westchester, but had a 9-7 prior to that for her season best in a meet against Southern Utah, Penn State, and Denver. And a pretty good dismount. Cornell coaching staff pleased. And we'll get another look here at the vault. For William and Mary, that was Chloe Campbell, one of our gymnasts to watch for William and Mary, a 9.6, her season best coming in. And we'll keep an eye on all the events here. Top vaulter for William and Mary has, you get another look here. Watch the end. You get a little bit of a deduction for that leg coming back just a hair. But overall, pretty happy with it was Campbell. Next up on the floor for Southern Connecticut is Sydney Wilson. You see her in the top left corner of your screen. Sarah Cooper up next on the vault for William and Mary. Top right corner of your screen for Cornell is Victoria DeMeo. And Kiana Session getting ready to take the bars for Bridgeport. DeMeo, one of the highest scorers all season for Cornell, a 9.825, her best. A little stumble at the end, but good job by William and Mary. Sarah Cooper to maintain her balance, keeping the energy going for the Tribe. Next up, have Emma Wiley on the runway. And we'll get another look at Cooper's vault. Again, gets good height, springs off the vault pretty well, but then a little low on the return. Didn't quite fall off that mat. That would have been a major deduction. DeMeo seems pleased with her beam performance. Emma Wiley on the vault. Her best score, a 9.8. Tough result last week at 9.025. And there's a look at the floor exercise. Sydney Wilson. And on the vault, You see Session in the bottom right corner. She's competing for the all-around. Is Session, good pace, and a very nice landing for Kiana Session on the bars in the bottom right corner. Back to Wilson in the top left. Here comes a tumble pass for her. Goes into that forward and lands it. For Cornell, next up on the beam is Sydney Beers. And so far, the floor exercise has been most kind to Southern Connecticut. They've done well to start. Wilson seems happy. Next up on the bars for Bridgeport in just a moment is going to be Gabrielle Jordan. Jordan's top bar score 9.725, a result she had here back on March 6th. As there's a look in at the Cornell Sydney Beers. Beers on the balance beam, top score this season, 9.75. Had that in a duel as a tough fall for Gabrielle Jordan on the bars. You might have heard it. Nice finish there for Beers. One of the top all-around gymnasts for the Big Red. First year out of Belmore, New York, will be competing for the all-around. She'll compete in all 4 events here today. And she'll come into the dismount of the beam here in just a moment. And some smiles for Beers and her coaches. And a tough go of things for Gabrielle Jordan on the bar. She actually hit the mat twice. You see the frustration on her face. She fell once in the middle of her routine and on her dismount. Final, Catherine Duran, who's one of the better bars gymnasts in the conference, will finish up for Bridgeport. That's a look at Sienna Rios for Southern. Rios a 9.725, her best on the bars. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong sheet. 9.675, her best floor routine. As she competes fourth of six, for Southern. And for Cornell, here's Melanie Stone on the beam as the officials on the floor confer. Our floor officials, Lorraine Duffy and Sean Ellis-Williams, had to have a conversation. Here's Stone, also competing in the all-around for Cornell. Touch the back cartwheel, and she's pleased so far. Again, the 9-7 against Denver, Penn State, and Southern Utah. One of her top results is here's Catherine Duran on the bars in the bottom left corner of your screen for Bridgeport. She has been one of the steadiest competitors of the season for the Purple Knights. And she had a terrific routine there on the bars. Duran, all season, her best result, a 9.925, will be competing for sure for one of the top overall results in that event today as Cornell's Melanie Stone wraps up on the beam and Sienna Rios will get started here on the floor. Rios' first pass, as you're going to get a look on the left. Duran's routine in the bars. Watch the elements of difficulty here on this route, on this dismount. Feet together, little bend of the knee, and her coaches are thrilled. There's Rios back on the floor. That little half step will cause a little bit of a deduction. And again, the officials here are basically starting with a baseline score and then adding and deducting based on what the gymnast's degree of difficulty and execution against that degree of difficulty would be. Might have been one of Rios' top performances of the season based on the reaction of the coaches and her teammates. Cassidy Girolamo and Hannah Zebdi will be the last two competitors of this first rotation. And again, floor always takes a little bit longer. There was a little bit of a delay. Zebdi's top floor score on the season, her top floor score this season, a 9.825, and Cassidy Girolamo's hit that 9.75 mark. Unfortunately for Southern Connecticut, Hannah Stahlbrod, who's been one of their mainstays, I think I saw her looking injured and unable to compete today. So we'll get a look at Girolamo warming up a couple weeks ago here. In a dual meet, hit a 9.7 on the floor. Her top score, 9.75 in a tri-meet back on March 13th between the Bears of Brown, UNH, and Penn State. William and Mary already making their way over to the bars. That's where they will compete next, will the Tribe. And there's Girolamo. A good first pass for Girolamo. Girolamo into her second pass here, focused, gets across. Feeling good about it. You can always tell by the expression on their faces, that's for sure. We'll have the vault results in just a second. And another pass here for Girolamo. Pretty high degree of difficulty as she concludes strongly for Southern Connecticut. So far, Sienna Rios, who we saw a couple minutes ago, the top scorer so far on the floor with her season best. She posted a 9.75 on the floor. For Cornell, Regina Walton had the top overall score on the beam at 9.825. Right behind her, Miranda Lund at 9.725. And you get another look here to that front handspring into the twist, and a good conclusion to the routine for Girolamo. One more competitor for Southern Connecticut on the floor will be Hannah Zebdi. Again, final scores on the vault have been posted, a 47.6, with every competitor for William and Mary at 9.4 1/4 or higher. High mark was 9.6 so far out of Emma Wiley. Tough day on the bars for Bridgeport, with the exception, as we expected, of Duran, who had that 9.825. Richardson and Jordan scoring 8.1s, and Crystal Gwynn 7.4. Zebdi ready to go. Back handspring into the aerials. Good landing. A lot of gymnasts, and we'll hear me say this a couple of times, really love the creativity and artistic elements that the floor exercise permits. Right now, the high mark is Rios' 9.75. Girolamo, who you just saw, scored a 9.65. And then after this, we will head to our second of the rotations. Here comes her second pass. So far, a pretty clean routine overall for Hannah Zebdi. Coach Knox happy with it. Sends her over to her teammates. And that'll do it for our first rotation, because that's the only score left to tally here. Ankles are pretty well together into that last jump. See the watchful eye in the top left corner of your screen of the officials. And that'll do it already for our first pass here. So the gymnasts are going to rotate. William and Mary will head to the bars. Southern Connecticut to the vault. That puts Cornell on the floor. And Bridgeport over to the beam. With that, we're going to take a quick timeout. First rotation in the books. We'll have some scores for you. It's been an energetic start to the GEC Championship. Catherine Duran, a 9.825 to lead all bar competitors, one of the highest scores so far today. We'll be right back. This is the GEC Gymnastics Championships from Brown University.
It's been such a tough season for our girls, but one thing I definitely learned about them is they will not go down without a fight. It was so tough I know for our upperclassmen who chose to return, because a lot of them were approaching their senior season and we had gotten sent home, and then they were excited to come back, but then there was fear that we wouldn't have a university because the university was potentially going to close due to everything COVID related and non-COVID related with us. So, you know, finally being back in the gym with a new coaching staff, they really were just happy to be doing gymnastics. And this year has really just been about enjoying your time in the gym, you know, being prepared for something that is unexpected, if that makes any sense. They've had to just really not be shocked by the things that have happened, because aside from injury, we've had handfuls of kids quarantine. We had kids with COVID over Christmas break. We had lack of travel and lack of competition because of COVID again this year. So I think this group has learned that they can truly get through anything.
Well, we welcome you back inside to the inaugural Gymnastics East Conference Championships from here in Providence, Rhode Island. First rotation of session 1 is in the books. There's a look at your team scores. Cornell right now out to an early lead, not by much, on Southern Connecticut with that 48.575 score on the beam. Southern Connecticut a 48.425 on the floor. William and Mary 47.6 on the vault, and Bridgeport 43.05 on the bars. Some high marks, Regina Walton a 9.825 on the beam for the Big Red, along with Duran's 9.825 on the bars. And as you saw at the end of that floor exercise, a 9.85 for Hannah Zebdi. And for Zebdi, I want to say that is a new season high as we head to the second rotation. We begin on the floor. Top left corner of your screen there for Cornell is Caitlin Walsh. Leading off in a moment on the bars for William and Mary will be Keegan Schaefer. Starting on the beam for Bridgeport will be Alexis Richardson. But meanwhile, here's Caitlin Walsh. Caitlin's top floor mark this season, 9.725 just last week. This is only her 4th time competing as she worked her way into the lineup back on February 20th. You saw that left leg came a little bit off the mat. Over on the beam there is Alexis Richardson for Bridgeport. And about to head down the runway on the vault is Brianna Daniels for Southern Connecticut. Richardson on the beam, her top score this season, 9.45. Daniels vault. Oh, she was close. Almost hit her head on the vault. She did miss it, but oh man, that was close. She's a vault specialist. Her top score this season, 9.525. A couple of 9.5 spattered in there. Here's Schaefer for William and Mary. A good routine for her. On the bars this season, her top score was 9.1. I think she might have gotten a little hair above that here so far today. There's Kate Michelini, the Cornell gymnast, will be next. Here's another look. Watch Daniels. Doesn't get great pop off that spring. Was really low on it. And oh, she just missed. Oof. Yeah, you hear the coach saying, a little too close to comfort there. Emma Wiley up next for the Tribe on the bars. Top score this season, 9.6. Michelini, there's another nice ball falling off at the end for Southern. Off that vault was Lexi Brashear. And that could cost her some points as Kiana Session gets ready to hop on the beam for Bridgeport. Here's Michelini. Kate's top score on the floor this season, a 9.825. That has been hovering around the 9.7s, 9.6s for most of the season. She hit the 9.85 against Westchester, backed that up with a 9.825 on February the 13th. Interesting to see what kind of adjustments are made over on the vault for Sydney Wilson as she vaults second. As Michaelini comes into her second tumble pass. Little off balance. You saw her line a little to the, well, what was our right. Here's Wiley on the bars in the bottom left of your screen. Session waiting as Michaelini concludes her floor routine. We'll take a look at the dismount on your bottom left. A very good routine for Emma Wiley on the bars for William and Mary. Solid, if not spectacular, really, for the second competitor for the Tribe. And a much better vault. You heard the reaction from Southern Connecticut out of the corner of your screen. Well, for Wiley, might have hit her season best there, is my guess. Picked a good time for it, that's for sure. Canada Session will compete in the all-around for Bridgeport. Little off balance there, but manages to retain her position on the bar. And again, a little off to the left there, but it's not going to be enough to cause her too many problems. Get another look at this dismount for William and Mary's Emma Wiley on your left as Sophia Huang will vault next. Watch this turn right into the dismount. Perfectly clean. The coaches knew it. On the floor, Katie Fitzpatrick for Cornell. That half step back could be a little bit of a deduction for Fitzpatrick. In your background, Huang on the bars. Oh, I'm sorry. This is on the floor. I'm sorry. This is Melanie Stone. I apologize. Looking at the wrong event there for you Cornell fans. That's Melanie Stone. My mistake. Huang with a good routine in the background for the Tribe. Stone on the floor, coming off of a couple of her better performances, a 9.65 against Westchester. About a month ago, a 9.775. Tumble pass here for Stone. Little off center, but she hits every element. Stone seems pleased. Due up for William and Mary is Sarah Cooper. Cooper's had a couple of solid 9.7, 9.725s on the bars. Good speed. Good transfer from the top to the bottom. And Southern's made some good adjustments over on the vault off your camera. That's again a great routine. Watch Cooper's dismount. Kelsey Hinton, the head coach. You see her watching intently. The speed around that top bar, straight out, feet together. Coach Hinton is fired up. On the floor for the Cornell Big Red is Callista Brady. Good number. Cooper seemed happy as the judge hands the number over to the scores table. We mentioned Callista Brady at the top of the broadcast. Hit a 9.9 and a 9.8 on the floor earlier this season. On the vault, she's also been a mainstay in the lineup for the Big Red. Sarah Wozniak on the vault, on the bars now for William and Mary. Girolamo just concluded the vault for Southern Connecticut. I tell you, William and Mary crushing the bars so far. Every single one of their landings has been almost spotless. A lot of height for Callista Brady there. Two more gymnasts to compete on the floor. The bottom right corner of your screen on the balance beam for Bridgeport is, that was Olivia Imberlina. It'll be interesting to see what we get for results. Huge numbers for William and Mary. I just saw a 10 and a 9.95 coming out of the vault officials. As the bars officials, Patty Colarosi, Darren Renna and Eileen Sheldon are is that Eileen Sheldon over there? Nope, that's Alan West Whiteberg. I'm sorry. Getting my names confused over here. There's Catherine Duran. She'll get ready to head up to the beam for Bridgeport. On the floor is Victoria DeMayo. Or is that Miranda Lund? It's Miranda Lund for Cornell. Catherine Duran had that solid performance on the bars earlier. And a 9.85 on the bars. The high water mark so far scored by Sarah Wozniak of William and Mary. Again, their numbers today have been outstanding. Final gymnast for Bridgeport will come up in a second. Meanwhile, here's Kaylee Galata of William and Mary. And she slipped. Now, the good news for Galata is there were already 5 good marks in the books for William and Mary. As the floor exercise concludes for Miranda Lund. So Galata could afford to go for it a little bit. Final competitor will come up on the floor in a moment for both Bridgeport on the beam and Cornell for the floor. As Gulata looks to round things out and does so with a good rally. Had a good finish after falling off the bar a moment ago. And keep in mind, she had already slipped off that lower bar, gets a good tuck and a good landing. Regina Walton to the Sydney Beers, I'm sorry, to the floor for Cornell, and over there on the beam. For Bridgeport is Nicole Javinet. Javinet's top beam score this year, 9.825. A number she's hit a couple of times. For Beers on the floor. Again, one of the more consistent competitors for Cornell, an all-around competitor. The floor, she's been in that 9-8 conversation all season. 9-7, 9-7, 7-5 more typically. See what she offers here as Javinet at a good routine on the beam. So far, Duran having a very good day for Bridgeport. The 9-8 on the beam and a 9.825 on the bars. Beers earlier at a 9.7 on the beam, and she wraps up the second rotation with a decent floor exercise. Not sure if that'll get her into that 9-8 conversation. In Southern Connecticut, so far, top 4 results on the vault as Hannah Zebde's final vault earned her a 9.8 to go along with her 9.85 on the floor. So with that, it appears that the second rotation has come to an end. And with that, we'll let the officials tally their scores, tabulate the marks. After 2 full rotations. As they'll head to the third rotation, we'll head off air for a moment. We'll be right back with more of the GEC Championships from Providence. This is ESPN.
This conference has been a long time in coming. All of the schools had prior been in a different conference and weren't really getting our needs met in that way. And so we had an opportunity to, during the pandemic, to kind of realize a new conference and get that going. And I think that moving forward from this inaugural year is going to be really exciting.
We have some really strong B2 schools. And we wanted to make sure that they were well represented and they felt like they were a part of the WCGA. And, we made that happen. And like I said, they're really strong teams and, it makes it just a healthy competition.
Yeah, no, it's a really talented pool of schools. When we were discussing whether we were going to start this conference or not, and then being able to include some of the other schools that weren't in the ECAC before and having us form one big conference with the 8 teams, I think it's great, number one, for the sport of gymnastics, but also I think it's going to make for a really exciting meet that it's going to come down to the end.
To the floor, you're looking at William and Mary heading to the balance beam. Southern Connecticut will be on the bars and Cornell the vault. There's a look at your team scores. You can see neck and neck are Cornell and Southern Connecticut, separated by less than 1/10 of a point. William and Mary about a point back at 96.025, and again, Bridgeport bringing up the rear at 90.875. Some of the top performers today for that last rotation, starting with the Purple Knights, a 9.8 for Catherine Duran on the beam and a 9.75 for Nicole Javinet. For Cornell on the floor, they got a 9.8 out of Miranda Lund, a 9.75 out of Sydney Beers, and the 9.7 out of Callie Brady. Southern Connecticut picked up the top 4 scores on the vault so far today. The 9.85 for Hannah Zebdi, a 9.75 for Sienna Rios, I'm sorry, that was on the floor. On the vault, I'm sorry, it was 9.8 for Hannah Zebdi, a 9.775 for Sydney Wilson, and the 9.75 apiece for Girolamo and Brooke Burkhart. And for William and Mary, some fine performances on the bars, 9.8 for Sarah Cooper and a 9.85 for Sarah Wozniak. Lineups here, starting with the Purple Knights on the floor, will be Gabrielle Jordan. There's Melanie Hall in her first season as the head coach of the Big Red, longtime assistant coach. You see there, been in Ithaca since 1994 in some capacity or another. So again, Jordan on the floor for Bridgeport. Leading the way for Cornell on the vault is going to be Amy Kruger. For William and Mary over on the balance beam, getting started for them will be Chloe Campbell, and Hannah Zebdi will, Delaney Fields will get started for Southern Connecticut on the bars. Jordan has competed on the bars, but on the floor, her top routine has been an 8.55. A good first pass for Jordan. Over on the beam is Chloe Campbell. We mentioned the bars, that's Delaney Fields. Fields essentially a bar specialist for Southern. A stumble at the end. She came off with some speed. Probably going to cost her some points, or some fractions of points. Campbell fired up. Nice job on the beam. Her top score on the beam this season had been a 9.7, and I think she's feeling she was pretty close to that. Let's see if we get another look at this dismount. It's a complicated one. Tucks in. Kept her feet together. And for Cornell on the vault, that was Brady. Brady, again, always in that 9.7 to 9.75 conversation. Next up on the floor, that's Olivia Imberlina for Bridgeport. Next up on the bars will be Cassidy Girolamo for Southern, and there's Miranda Lund for Cornell. On the vault, Lund's best score, a 9.725. That was back on January 28th. She did have a 9.7 last week. There's Imberlina, bottom left corner of your screen. And for William and Mary, that's Kagan Schaefer on the beam in the bottom right corner of your screens right now. Lunds vault. Steps off the mat. Little hiccup of the knee as well. Girolamo so far, a 9.75 on the vault and a right there on the bars. Going to have a pretty good number as well. And she's in tears. Something's bothering her. Either that or it's just sheer joy. It's one or the other. Look at the emotion. Again, Girolamo a 9.75 on the vault, a 9.65 on the floor, and see if we can catch what might have coming off backwards down to the lower bar, switches back up to the top bar. One, the turn again, and the dismount. That was a pretty good dismount. Again, a lot of raw emotion for these competitors. Regina Walton getting ready to vault for Cornell. Well, again, have a little bit of a deduction for that right leg is my prediction. As getting ready to hop up on the beam. Well, on the beam is Sophie Chandler for William and Mary. On the bars, in the top right corner of your screen is Chelsea Baker for Southern Connecticut. And heading to the floor for Bridgeport is Alexis Richardson. So far, things pretty clean here on this bar routine for Chelsea Baker. And she pretty much hit it all the way around. Pretty much hit it all the way around, did Baker. Her best score on the bars coming in was that 9.85 she had about a month ago, or earlier this month, I should say, in a meet against Brown, North Carolina State, and Rutgers. We'll see if the numbers tell out the similar tale today. There's a 10, there's a 9-9. A great run for Baker in the bars. I was watching the score table, and 9.875 on the bars. That's the top score we've seen so far today over on the bars. Meanwhile, that's Alexis Richardson for Bridgeport on the floor. Got a little low. Top left, you'll see Donna Webster for Cornell on the vault. Top right on the bars, that's Audrey Arnold for Southern, who also just hit a terrific routine. Southern Connecticut could be peaking at the right time. Again, a solid performance in the vault out of Southern. They came in. Team scores just a skosh behind, and that's a great vault for Cornell. And their team knows it too. Webster just had herself probably one of her finer vaults of the season. with Sydney Beers left to compete. Meanwhile, over the beam, that's Emma Wiley for Southern, for William and Mary, sorry. You keep a track of everybody. It's not easy all the time. Able to maintain her balance there. About to head up on the bars for Southern will be Sienna Rios, but you're watching the beam competition, Emma Wiley. And again, another solid result on the bars for Southern Connecticut. I think you're going to see another 9-8 and change. Yeah, 9-8-2-5 for Chelsea Baker. I'm sorry, for Audrey Arnold. After a 9-8-7-5 for Chelsea Baker. Wiley on the bar, beam, side dismount. Clean routine for Wiley. Oh, and a tough fall for Sienna Rios. And Rios is competing in every event but the beam for Southern Connecticut. For Bridgeport, that's Kiana Session in the middle of the floor. And so that last competitor, I thought that was Crystal Gwynn. I've seen Bridgeport quite a bit. Session is competing from the all-around for Bridgeport. A good rally for Rios as well after falling. Bianca Leone, the only competitor left in the bars for Southern, and I think we have one more competitor over on the beam, and that's a tough fall for Kiana Session at the end of that pass. Didn't quite get the height and ended up hitting the mat. That will cost her some deductions. No, that was I was right. That was Crystal Gwynn. Now I'm all messed up. I saw Crystal Gwynn in the, Kiana Session is next. I didn't miss someone for Bridgeport. Keeping track of all these gymnasts from my corner up here has tested my vision, I have to admit. So Session is up next for Bridgeport. We'll to conclude the floor exercise for William and Mary. That's Abby Carpenter. Carpenter's beam this season hovered around 9.6, 9.65. Did have a 9.675 a couple of weeks back. He seems to be struggling to stay at center today. As, again, a little back foot on the dismount, but she's excited with, again, the level of complexity. Over to the bars we'll go in a moment. There's Bianca Leone, one of the favorites in this event. And you just saw why. Leone has been consistently above 9.7, 7.5, 9.8, as there's Kiana Session for Bridgeport. And Crystal Gwynn was the fourth gymnast. We saw Alexis Richardson a couple of minutes ago as well. Session into her first pass. got good height, had a pretty tight landing. Ankles were together as Sarah Cooper will conclude the beam in a moment for William and Mary as well. As the score for Bianca Leone on the bars will turn just over the right shoulder of Kiana Session there, a 9.875. Southern Connecticut, great vault and a really terrific bars. And Kiana Session so far pretty clean on the floor as Sarah Cooper will wrap up the beam, and that'll be it for our third rotation once she dismounts. Let's see what Cooper offers here on the conclusion of her beam routine. She fell. And you can see it in her face, trying to get herself back grounded. That is a major deduction, unfortunately, for her. On the beam, she's been solid this season. 9.725 was high water mark for her, but again, falling off to the side will cost her. Likely her last sequence here. Into the dismount, and a tough end for Cooper. She knows it. She can see it in her face. She's a little frustrated. But that will do it for our third rotation. For Bridgeport, they will leave the floor, and a terrific end to Kiana Sessions' GEC season on the floor. We'll head over to the vault. Southern Connecticut to the beam. William and Mary to the floor. Cornell right in front of me here to the bars. When we return to the fourth rotation, we'll have some recaps as well. The energy is apparent. Some of the personal bests getting knocked down here from the Pizzatola. We'll take a timeout. We'll be back here with our fourth rotation of session one after these words here on ESPN.
So my feelings heading into the GECs, I would say we're extremely excited just to be a part of the inaugural season. We have 8 really strong teams, and we're very fortunate to just be in such a competitive pool. As far as my team, we have 8 freshmen, so we're fairly young. And one thing that I'm really excited about is that the fact that none of my athletes, all 17 of them, none of them have been a part of an actual conference meet. So this is fresh. We're going in, brand new. So it'll be a lot of learning lessons, and it should be a fun experience.
I'm just incredibly proud of them. I think that every team goes through hardships and challenges and whatever, and I think that this pandemic has just really taught them that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. And I think it's true of all the schools in this conference. I've really, just watching through this season, have been incredibly impressed with everybody's teams and what they've brought to the table. And I think all of the seniors have left their mark on their teams by being leaders, whether they're team captains or not, just showing everybody else on the team what a team is. And gymnastics is a very individualized sport. And so through a pandemic, when you're not competing, figuring out how to be a team was, in my opinion, one of the hardest things that they had to do. And I think they did it with grace and fortitude and perseverance. And I'm really just super, super impressed with this class, this graduating class.
Inaugural GEC Championships, the Gymnastics East Conference, comprised of the Ivy League schools that compete in intercollegiate gymnastics: Brown, Yale, Cornell, and Penn, along with Westchester, Southern Connecticut, Bridgeport, and William and Mary. And the three of those four non-Ivies in competition today in the first session with Cornell. There's your results through 3 rotations. And you see you got a real slugfest at the top with Cornell holding a lead over Southern Connecticut, 145.975 to Southern Connecticut's 145.625. Really on the strength of the vault at this point. The advantage on the vault that Cornell has had today has been significant, as the Big Red with right now the 3 top scores on the vault. Sydney Beers a 9.85, Callista Brady and Donna Webster 9.8s. Southern Connecticut had a 9.8 as well, but then the next 3 Southern Connecticut scores 9.75, 9.75, and 9.75 as well. There goes Byron Knox off your screen, the second season as the head coach of Southern Connecticut. On the bars, Southern Connecticut kept pace. Chelsea Baker, Bianca Leone, both with 9.875s on the vault. And just getting a mark there, I think, is Nicole Javanette. Actually, I'm not sure if that one, yeah, she just went up and got a mark, I think, because they needed somebody to vault. Javanette. And now on the bars for Cornell, Maddie Wolf. On the beam, the bottom right part of your screen, is Hannah Zebdi. Zebdi's had herself a pretty good day so far, a 9.85 on the floor and a 9.8 on the vault. She did not compete on the bars. For Cornell, Maddie Wolf, this is her only event of the day, and she hits her hands on the mat. Meanwhile, on the floor, to get things started for William and Mary, is Abby Carpenter. Carpenter nails the first pass. On the floor, her best result, a 9.75. Zebdi concludes the beam. She's had her best earlier this season was about 9.725, as stumbling off is Alexis Richardson on the vault for Bridgeport. Here comes the pass for Abby Carpenter. She'll have a good mark. And she seems happy. You can usually tell. Yes. I'll tell you, William and Mary's had a lot of energy throughout today's competition. Regardless of what's happened on the floor, on the beam, the bars, what have you. Catherine Doran will be on the vault for Bridgeport as Kate Michelini gets ready to take the bars for Cornell. Duran a 9.8 on the beam, a 9.825 on the bars, and here comes the vault. Hits it. Good routine for Duran. Good run. Michelini for Cornell on the bars right now. Solid for her. Got to imagine it'll be better than her last few results. Ever since that 9.725 back on February the 6th, a lot of 9-1s, 9-4, 9-2. As Sarah Cooper for William and Mary on the floor exercise. Her top score this season in the 9.4, 9.575 range. Good start. Didn't have the beam she would have liked. She did fall off, unfortunately, which cost her some points. She ended up down at a 9.175, and that was after a 9.8 on the bars, as she is competing in the all-around. Bottom right corner of your screen for Southern Connecticut is Molly Froman on the beam. There goes Kiana Session for Bridgeport on the vault. A pretty high degree of difficulty as Huber with a really nice finish there on that second pass. Over on the bars for Cornell will be Katie Fitzpatrick in a moment. She saw her kind of jam that left ankle, wincing a little bit. There goes Fitzpatrick into what will be her final high bar pass into the dismount. One, and finish. The stumble at the end will cost her a couple of deductions perhaps, as back to the vault comes the final competitor of the day for Bridgeport, Olivia Imbarlina. High degree of difficulty on Imberlina's vault. Her top score coming in, she had 9.7s a couple of times, but you'll see the tuck here. She gets good height on the initial vault into the, kept her knees together as well, so she should be pretty happy with that result. Back to the floor. And Sophie Chandler for William and Mary on the left of your screen. Chandler on the floor. Top score of 9.6 against Bridgeport and Westchester back on Saturday, the February the 12th, as well as in their season opener all the way back on January 14th. A very aggressive routine on the bars for those of you who are able to hear. Well, now you'll get to the top right corner of your screen. All four events in action. And for Cornell's Maddie Sakalowski, what a result. Sakalowski perhaps saving her best result of the season for today. On the right of your screens, on the beam is Amelia Diaz. On your left, Sophie Chandler comes to the conclusion of her floor exercise. Watch this full routine from Sakalowski here. You'll get it in full. Again, watch the pace she whips from the first to the second bar right there. Hitting that right there, a crucial part of the elements here. And then into this dismount, She stayed nice and even, got it tucked, and a terrific landing for Sokolowski and Cornell. Looking to come away with the top overall score from this first session. They had a great result last week in their dual meet conclusion of the season. Sydney Beers and Melanie Stone up last for the Big Red. Bridgeport's day is over. On the floor exercise is Chloe Campbell. Campbell had a really nice job on the beam earlier today. A 9.725 there. Oh, and landing on a knee, unfortunately, there was Sydney Beers on the bars. They have one more competitor, Will Cornell, and that's Melanie Stone, as Campbell with a good job on her pass. Beers scored a 9.75 on the floor and a 9.85 on the vault, but the landing on the bars wasn't there for her. Melanie Stone, a 9.625 and a 9.55 on the beam and floor respectively. She'll compete last for Cornell, as Campbell with a fine pass there. Shrug. Campbell has got to be pleased with that. She seems to be okay. And that'll bring us to Melanie Stone on the bars in a moment. About to go up on the beam. They are conferring are the officials for the beam. So the start of our next competitor Emily Call, will be delayed on the beam while the officials confer on the score for Amelia Diaz. Call's top score on the beam, 9.75 when she gets there. Her seed score, at least. Well, here's Melanie Stone for Cornell. At 9.775 back on February the 13th. So far, she's been solid. Comes a little bit to my right. There's the dismount. Should be okay with that score. I'm sure Will Stone is finally getting underway on the beam. Is Call for Southern Connecticut. On the bottom right of your screen, floor exercise competing is Kagan Schaefer. Schaefer's floor has been really her best event throughout the season. Consistent 9.775s, 9.75s, regardless of the event. Good extension there for her, and a good job by Call to clean dismount for Southern. Schaefer will get another tumble pass here coming from the right to left. Here, a coach giving her a little bit of encouragement right over her shoulder. Here comes the pass. Well, whatever she said seemed to work wonders. A very clean pass in the end for Kagan Schaefer. She knows it. So far, the scores on the floor for William and Mary have been excellent. We just saw Campbell a minute ago, 9.85. I would not be surprised. Look at that. Completely straight, ankles together. into the final element there for Schaefer. And here's Anne-Marie Kubler. So far, the top scorer of the all-around, because Beers might have cost herself with that fall on the bars. Dropped her all the way to 9.35. Right now, Kiana Sessions' score in the books at 38.7, a 0.05 of a point ahead of Sydney Beers, who had 38.65. Sarah Cooper, that little slip on the beam cost her. She's down at 38.2. Angel Lee on the beam, your right side of your screen. Anne-Marie Kubler for William and Mary's first pass. Comes through it clean. For Anne-Marie, averaging in the 9.6, 9.45. Did have one outlier against Westchester where there was an 8.45. For Angel Lee, solid down there on the beam. Is another nice finish there for Kubler on your left. For Lee, who is coming off a 9.65 and a 9.6 last weekend. So just Bianca Leone left to compete for Southern on the beam, as Kubler will head for her pass here, left to right. Good angles. Little hiccup at the end, just got that right foot out, but probably not enough to warrant a significant deduction. And she had a good run all in all. So we'll have some of our final scores about to be tabulated. Again, Cornell, Bridgeport are already in the books. William and Mary will be in a moment. And with Bianca Leone left to compete on the beam. There's some William and Mary faithful here. They travel pretty well, actually, did the Tribes fans. I was trying to recall one of the last times Brown had William and Mary here in town for anything other than gymnastics, because they're in the same league. Here's Leon. Bianca Leone's season on the balance beam. She competed in their first two meets of the year and has not competed on the beam since February 6th, at least according to my records. A first-team all-conference in the bars where, again, her seed came in today at 9.825. And earlier today had a 9.875, tying her for the overall lead, with Chelsea Baker heading into tonight's second session, which will start at 6, featuring Brown, Penn, Yale, and Westchester. For Bianca Leone, this is her second event of the day. Okay, Leone, some good lines, has had pretty clean so far on the beam. We haven't seen too many of those bends at the waist to her left and right. She's going to go to her front and hits it. You saw the response of Coach Knox. Fists in the air. The risk paying off. She hadn't competed in that event in a while this season. and she had herself a pretty good finish. And this is a pretty high degree of complexity. And watch, she takes a knee here, right into that front twist. That is a very difficult dismount, and coach knew it. So we're going to take a timeout. We'll be back in a moment to run through the final team scores. Cornell and Southern Connecticut trying to take the early session lead into tonight's marks. With that, we'll take a timeout. This is the GEC Championships here on ESPN.
This conference has been a long time in coming. All of the schools had prior been in a different conference and weren't really getting our needs met in that way. And so we had an opportunity to, during the pandemic, to kind of realize a new conference and get that going. And I think that moving forward from this inaugural year is going to be really exciting.
We have some really strong B2 schools. And we wanted to make sure that they were well represented and they felt like they were a part of the WCGA. And, we made that happen. And like I said, they're really strong teams and, it makes it just a healthy competition.
Yeah, no, it's a really talented pool of schools. When we were discussing whether we were going to start this conference or not, and then being able to include some of the other schools that weren't in the ECAC before and having us form one big conference with the 8 teams. I think it's great, number one, for the sport of gymnastics, but also I think it's going to make for a really exciting meet that it's going to come down to the end.
Well, they're shaking them up and congratulating each other. Bianca Leon's score on the beam, a 9.825, the highest mark on the beam for anybody from Southern Connecticut, and in fact tied the overall lead with Regina Walton. And you could see that celebration because it pushed the Owls into the overall lead coming out of this morning session, their season high of 194.2 overall, just a mere 0.25 ahead of Cornell. And so Southern Connecticut will find themselves in, at least right now, the lead heading into this evening's session with 194.2. Cornell at 194.175 had the lead going into that final rotation. The bar scores weren't enough for the Big Red as Southern Connecticut was able to rally. Some of the individual highlights, the overall lead today so far on the vault: Sydney Beers for Cornell, a 9.85. Callista Brady and Donna Webster with 9.8s, as did Hannah Zebdi for Southern Connecticut. On the bars, Southern Connecticut's Chelsea Baker and Bianca Leon both with 9.875s to set the mark that Penn, Brown, Yale, and Westchester will try and achieve later this evening. In the beam, Regina Walton and Bianca Leon tied with a 9.825, followed by Catherine Duran of Bridgeport, who had that 9.8. And on the floor, Kiana Session and Hannah Zebdi, along with Chloe Campbell of William & Mary, tied for the overall lead at 9.85, with Abby Carpenter just behind them at 9.825. In the all-around lead, Kiana Session of Bridgeport, the 38.7, has her 0.05 of a point ahead of Sydney Beers, and about almost 0.4 ahead of Keegan Schaefer of William & Mary. So they will take some photos. We will say farewell for a couple of hours as the first session from the Pizzatola Sports Center is in the books. For our entire outstanding ESPN team, this has been the first session of the inaugural GEC Gymnastics East Conference Championship. A joy to bring it to you as these competitors left it all out there on the bar's vault floor and beam. My name is Mike Rubin. We hope you'll tune in tonight at 6 as Brown, Penn, Yale, and Westchester will compete in the second session. Thanks for tuning in this afternoon, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.